Total for encounters with individuals in 22 years. They dealt with 243,880 people. Since President Trump implemented the migrant protection protocols in January of 2019, otherwise known as his Remain in Mexico policy, those seeking asylum in the states have not been able to cross into America while awaiting their hearings. The U.S. Supreme Court has now put an end to all of that. Holly Cooper, co-director of the Immigration Law Clinic at UC Davis, is with me now live. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Holly, I think I know, but give us a reaction to this reversal of Remain in Mexico, a policy the Biden administration resisted but was forced to reinstate last December.
That's correct. So, essentially what Remain in Mexico is exactly what you said. People are forced to remain in Mexico while they apply legally for political asylum. And what Trump did was say that, while your case is pending, you have to wait in the refugee camps. And now with President Biden in office, he sought to rescind that policy. Texas and Missouri sued and said, we don't want that. We want it to remain in place. And the Supreme Court 5 days ago said, hey, you know what? President Biden has the authority to rescind this old policy, and people can proceed legally with their cases here in the United States to the extent that they can access that system. But we have to remember that there's still Title 42 is still in place. So it may not have much impact on the ground.
And Title 42 does what?
Title 42 essentially says, because we're in a pandemic, we're not going to allow people to legally enter the United States. Biden has kept that policy in place. Trump administration began it. And so Title 42 basically says, because we're in a pandemic, we have the federal authority to inhibit migration to the United States and to stop it at the border. So that is still in place, impacting thousands of individuals who are seeking to come to this country to ask for asylum.
My understanding is that 6 out of every 10 people trying to come across from Mexico into this country right now are Nicaraguans. That's one problem, is it not? That's not their country of origin. So it's not like Mexico has a real place for them, or that they're just going back home to wait this out until they can have a hearing.
That's exactly right. I've spent some time down in the camps on the border. And one of the big issues we see is that people, while they're waiting for their cases in the refugee camps, are targeted by traffickers. And so I know in this country, we're very concerned about children and adults being put into sex trafficking, drug trafficking, and it's a huge issue. There's a real lack of security at the border. And so the irony is people are fleeing persecution and seeking, safety, yet they're put into a very unsafe situation. In fact, when I was working in the camps, there were children who were bodies were being laid at the foot of the refugee camp who had been shot by traffickers. That's how dangerous it is. It was so dangerous that I was even afraid to go into many of these camps for fear for my own safety. And yet these are individuals who are seeking asylum in our country, something that we've had, for decades. And so, I think that this is the step in the right direction towards recognizing our international obligation to protect people who are fleeing violence in their home countries.
What other problems besides trafficking have you seen over these last 4 years with Remain in Mexico?
We see disappearances as well, executions, and we're talking children, right? I brought my teenage son down there, and even, every time 5 minutes, I would look around and make sure he was still at my side, because that's how dangerous the refugee camps are in Mexico. And the problem is there a lot of the traffickers are in cahoots with the police. So you really don't have a safety network like you have in this country. And so I think that this is a step in the right direction in the sense that we can now recognize children, adults, women are in enormous danger for trafficking, both sex, drugs. Sometimes we're forced into drug trafficking, arms trafficking. So if we really want to take a stance against trafficking and child exploitation, I think that we need to recognize that Remain in Mexico was really feeding children and vulnerable people to large trafficking organizations.
Speaking of more vulnerable people, tomorrow there will be oral arguments in Texas v. United States, which is really a multi-state challenge to DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, giving protected immigration status to those who have come here with their parents and may have been brought illegally. MALDEF's vice president and opposing attorneys are presenting before a 3-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans. In 2018, a coalition of states led by Texas filed a federal lawsuit challenging the legality of DACA. In the meantime, the protections were allowed to continue temporarily for current recipients and permitted the processing of renewals, but blocked any first-time applications. Where do you see this going with DACA with this hearing coming up tomorrow?
Well, we're very hopeful that DACA will remain in place, and I think that the president there's a large history of case law supporting that the president in power has the executive authority to make decisions like to grant temporary work permits to people that have been in this country for extended periods of time. We're not talking about permanent resident status, which Congress would have to do. We're talking about temporary executive authorized work permits. On the other hand, the Fifth Circuit is a very conservative court, right? It's a circuit court that has a lot of Republican nominees that are typically anti-immigrant. So there is that fear, but I still remain hopeful because at the end of the day, it's a question about executive authority. And I think that the case law is in the favor of the DACA recipients, that they will win.
All righty. Holly Cooper, thank you so much for joining us this morning and for offering your insight. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Okay. Have a nice day.